here we go.
What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
Richardson gonna take off and run. He's in there! Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Outside give to Taylor. Stretching it out. He's at the 5, and he walks in untouched. Jonathan Taylor. Turner wants to do more damage, and he does.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Welcome to it on a Wednesday. Show on the road on Friday. I shall explain in a bit. $189.5 million max extension for Pascal Siakam with the Indiana Pacers. We will discuss that over the course of the afternoon. As I've mentioned really ad nauseum, the moment you made that deal, that was the moment you knew. That was the moment you put pencil to paper and decided this is exactly where you're going. It wasn't just now or an epiphany all of a sudden or, hey, we liked what he did in the postseason. None of that. You knew exactly where you were going with this the moment you pulled off that deal. 42.3, 45.7, 49.1, 52.5. So you got a 4-year max extension. And this thing will go up until Pascal Siakam turns 34. So if you didn't already know that the Pacers are in the midst of it, in the middle of it, they absolutely are. So that would beg the question. All right, so how else do you deal with it? If you decide not to get more than just a little bit active this offseason, and some of those names, those veteran names that are out there, does that mean you're not doing this right? Does that mean you're not living in the now? You're waiting for later. Do you have to go out and do something right now to continue to elevate this team in the Eastern Conference? Again, in the here and the now. A lot of you would suggest you have to, and there's still going to be a lot of decisions made. We'll see what they end up doing with Andrew Nembhard as far as giving him more money, solidifying his situation. I guarantee you that's going to happen. I told you from the jump exactly how much they've loved Andrew Nembhard. And he certainly showed them that, especially in those 2 games in which Tyrese Halliburton was unavailable against Boston. So you can expect that. I just can't for the life of me, and we're going to get bombarded now with trade ideas that are dumb as absolute hell. Just get ready for it. And I could be entirely wrong, and maybe they're going to put together something that's going to absolutely wow you. Oh, wow, going after a veteran. And we've only really offered up Mikal Bridges. Like, I'm not even going to dive into the OG Anunoby stuff. Where's that dude really going? He's going to go right back to New York. So the word is that he doesn't like how they're handling things. Well, when they give him a bunch of money to play in Madison Square Garden, all these home games, he'll like exactly what they're doing for him. Yeah, so much conversation right now about it. So I don't buy any of that. And the Bridges thing, like now you hear that Brooklyn doesn't want to deal him. And then you get a bunch of trade ideas today, Brooklyn trying to deal him. I don't know if you saw the one from Bleacher Report. I had to respond to it, and I think I responded to the dude that retweeted it. But it is so stupid. So dumb. And as much as I believe that they, for no reason whatsoever, want to part with Andrew Nembhard, I would say the same thing for Benedict Mathurin. Can any of you out there, for the life of you, believe that they're going to part with Benedict Mathurin? You don't see it all the time. And maybe a lot of you don't believe it. Maybe it's because they got over on injured teams, whether it's Milwaukee or New York. Maybe you kind of feel that brunt a little bit. I just happen to think they like most of the personnel on this team, and that there's not going to be anything drastically done. And while I live in a world where I cannot wait to see a team around here solidify and win because we've been waiting and all these buzz terms were worn out on, I just, in this case, think you can and will get better by making sure you maintain these guys that are growing and are going to get better. I don't want to see Andrew Nembhard be a really good player someplace else. I cannot wait to see Benedict Mathurin play here. Coming back from that injury, missing what he missed a year ago. My goodness, who is not excited about that? So, can this team grow? Can this team get better by basically just having what we know that they have right now? And believe me, there's still going to be questions. They're going to be defensive questions. And we knew we were going to have this conversation, and we knew at some point relatively soon that this whole thing with Pascal Siakam is going to get done. I am fine with it. I was fine with the deal. I was fine with the way that he played. I think these guys all play well together. And if you're going to ask me, well, if somebody gets injured, somebody around here normally gets injured. So I'm prepared for that or any of it. And if somebody doesn't, then you have good fortune. And it's been a long time since you've had solidified good fortune. But I will tell you this. I thought this season was good fortune. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what they say about Boston having the easiest of all time trip to the NBA Finals and the championship. So what? If you're in Boston, you want it. And you can tell everybody to stick that trophy up their rear end. And if you're a Pacer fan, you went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Your team did. And you watched it. It happened. And who cares about anything else? Who cares what they have to say in Milwaukee or New York or Philadelphia or Miami? I think you have to take really that same tack in terms of you're going to watch all these other Eastern Conference teams. They're going to add names, and you're going to have a lot of, oh, wow, look what they're doing, and the Pacers aren't doing anything. I think a lot of the groundwork that has been laid for this team right now, as I've mentioned, is for the present and for the future. It works both ways. So why do you have to jack with it? And then you're going to tell me they got to get better defensively. They got to get better rebounding. And I have given you ways, legitimate ways, that I would expect them to get better at both. Now, maybe a lot of people won't agree with me, but who the hell cares? I don't care. You can get better defensively that can lead to you getting better on the defensive glass. There's nothing you're going to be able to do about the offensive glass. Really nothing. I mean, hell, if you get an offensive board, then we're all going to have to stand up and give it a standing ovation. But there's really nothing you're going to be able to do there. But as far as getting better on the defensive glass, you clean that because you get better defensively in general, especially on the perimeter. And I don't know about anybody else. I think Benedict Mathurin and his reemergence as a healthy player, this guy had all the motivation in the world to play any night, any time he ever suited up and played. All the motivation in the world. And then you add this, missing out on this postseason run, this phenomenally enjoyable postseason run. Can you imagine what Mathurin's going to look like? Why in the world would anybody out there consider him being tradable? Why would they think the Pacers would want to do that? And I like Mikal Bridges, but damn. To me, you stick with what you have right now. If you can find a way to add a piece here or there, veteran-wise, then so be it. I love it if they're able to bring back Obi. Obi has found his spot, has found his position. You're not going to be able to help if somebody just offers him a buttload of money and starters minutes someplace. But as far as being a part of this team, you saw him grow in that role coming off the bench, and you've seen how important the bench is for this team. It's not like all of a sudden they're going to play differently. They're not going to play offense any differently than what we've seen. So you're going to have that. You're going to have somebody, you're going to have guys that come in and maintain the offensive flow and tempo when the starters go to the bench. This is how this is going to work. And there are ways to get better defensively without having to go out and get this guy and that guy. Remember, everybody said, too, once Tyrese Halliburton was here and solidified, it was going to be like just getting this and getting that and bringing guys in, and guys want to play here. That's fine. But if you already have that makeup on your team, again, why do you mess with it? Why do you feel the need to mess with it? You shouldn't. You should feel good about how this goes. Bobby Marks said, I think on the show earlier on Query and Company, that it is still mandatory that you draft well. And the Pacers, at times prior to where we are now, that was not the case. But recently, they have hit on guys. We'll see about Jarus Walker. I'm not right there with you. I'm not suggesting they trade him either, but I'm also not suggesting that you have to hope that Obi's gone or get rid of Obi or let him go or do something different to make room for Jarus Walker. Jarus Walker makes room for himself. Jarus Walker goes in and plays to a level to where you have to give him clock. And then you just find ways. In this era of positionless basketball, it should be the easiest of all time. Give him minutes when he is producing. Who cares where he is on the floor? Am I wrong? Yeah, 1985, that may have been an issue when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5s on the floor. But now it should be the easiest of all time. You don't just hand over the minutes to somebody that has yet to prove it. So start proving. What's so hard about that? And again, remember, we went through this similar situation a year ago. Not quite the same at all, but a similar situation to where everybody was ready to jettison T.J. McConnell. All he was going to do was take away younger players' minutes and all that blah-bitty-blah. And you saw how that worked out. You saw how necessary he was. Sometimes you got to learn from history. Sometimes you have to learn from your mistakes. I try to learn from my mistakes, but they're so rapid fire and so consistent, like I'm bum rushed with bad decisions. But this should be, I think, easy. And then, to me, you also have the leverage to, let's just say, for example, you do want to make some changes. You have some leverage to make some changes by the trade deadline if you want to. So why not? Why do you have to all of a sudden thrust yourself into different positions this summer? Because Bleacher Report says that they should? Who the hell cares? Be like one of the few times anybody's really ever considered what the Pacers are doing anyway. In fact, I like what they're doing. I like their personnel. I like their young talent, and I think that there is plenty of room up to that ceiling to grow even further. So why do you mess with it? Yeah, just because you went out and you made that deal for Siakam, yeah, that's not good enough of a reason. I mean, you have to do that. But you don't have to, in my opinion, do any of this other stuff that others suggest you should. All right, Pacer fans, I know that you want to chat about it, and I will give you the time and the inclination to do just that at 239-1070. I do. I like the makeup of this team. And maybe there's a name that's going to drop in that will thrill me even further. I just think all that what you're looking for, with the exception of offensive rebounding, is housed with this group right now. And nothing against Jalen Smith, who was an awesome conversation and made himself a lot of money here because others will find value in him once he's someplace else, value that was not there when he got here from Phoenix. So good on the Pacers and good on Jalen Smith. But don't give me blocking of minutes for a young player and what are you going to do with Jarus Walker? No. What's Jarus Walker going to do for himself? I'm not mad at him, but you do have to earn it. I don't care where he was drafted. I mean, hell, Caitlyn Clark wants to earn it. We know about that situation. That's probably why I admire her more than anything else. Now you earn it. And then you make the coach and the 1,000 staff members on every NBA coaching staff, the 15 rows of assistants, you make them figure out. You make them work it out. Now, your work is to show them on the floor when you're given the opportunity. Yeah, I know, like the Eminem song, Lose Yourself. Lose yourself in it, Jarus. And they'll find a spot for it. I guarantee you this, if he plays well, if it appears that he is now going to be indisposable in his growth going into the season, this coaching staff will find him a spot, no matter where it is. You just don't hand it over. Well, you got to go ahead and get rid of this guy because you got to make sure he doesn't block the minutes of this other guy. Well, wait a minute. Has the younger guy earned it? Fascinating about this team. Again, I think they have a lot of the components that are necessary that others are going to have to go out and find this offseason. I think they already have a lot of that under the roof. We shall see. Yeah, I mentioned 239-1070 if you guys want to jump on that inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Thank you for joining us. Fever the Mystics coming up later on tonight. Boyland's going to be here sometime in the 5 o'clock hour. I believe that's on Bally Sports Indiana. Check that, 4 o'clock hour. Bally Sports Indiana. I think I saw it was Bally Sports and NBA TV. It's not going to be that jerk-around situation where, for whatever reason, I get everything, but I didn't get the Fever game last time out when it was like that. It's mostly always a surprise. I think I pay for everything. And then all of a sudden, for this one Fever game, and hell, I can't remember when it was, all of a sudden I couldn't find it, and it was blacked out on NBA TV, and it wasn't on Bally. That is one thing about it. You get all these nationally televised games, but it is somebody's going to have to bring back TV Guide, all right? I know we got rid of TV Guide years ago, but I think the TV Guide is necessary. Can somebody bring back TV Guide? Well, where is it tonight? Well, it's on Bally Sports Indiana or NBA TV. Maybe it's on ION, CBS, just maybe. I guess it's a hell of a lot better than being broadcast on Facebook. Again, thanks to everybody's interest in Caitlyn Clark. And she doesn't care. She just wants to play. We'll talk about that with Pat Boyland. Bowen's going to be here bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. Kevin Lee, I do love this. And I've mentioned this, too, in terms of Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese. It is all about basketball. You want it to be about basketball. But if there is a layer that you can accept, it is a soap opera. It's a good soap opera. It's a good back and forth. And even if Caitlyn Clark doesn't engage, I think Angel Reese, I think I saw this, hell, I don't know when it was. Was it Frank Isola or somebody suggesting that Angel Reese, you think she really doesn't want to be the heel, really doesn't want to be the bad person in this? I think she does embrace it. Maybe there are times because you go to social media and you're bombarded with stupidity. But, you know, playing the antagonist can be difficult. It's a hell of a lot easier being the protagonist in a rivalry. You know, you're that antagonist character. It can be difficult. You have to be built for it. As a good player, she certainly is. But I think you need a good rivalry, a good soap opera. So I don't know if anybody's paying attention, but you apparently got one going in IndyCar, and this is something that I mentioned last week when we found out that Fox is going to take over. And Eric Shanks evidently does not have time right now to join the show. Of course he does. I mean, it's June. The hell else is he doing? He's from IU, he's from Northview, and he doesn't have time to be on the show for 10 minutes right now. At some point, he's going to be on the show, and then we'll bring this back up. But he sure as hell better bring Kevin Lee to the broadcast, because there's nobody better at what they do in IndyCar in educating you than Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee, we're very fortunate, can do that with Kurt Cavan on Trackside weekly here on The Fan. Kevin's going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour because this is what IndyCar needs, a little back and forth. You've had some Kanan response to Scott McLaughlin, so we got to get that straight from Kevin Lee. I dig it. And IndyCar is going to find out that this Fox deal looks certainly a lot better than NBC. I guess a lot better than what used to be ESPN and ABC. But this is going to be on the shoulders of IndyCar to make themselves more valuable. And more valuable beyond just 2 weeks in May. Just beyond the Indy 500. That's what you have to do. It's not all about, it's kind of like my argument regarding Jarus Walker. You've got to show your value. You earn those minutes. And you bring on another broadcast partner that believes in you, you have to show your value beyond 2 weeks in May. Show that other people care about these other races that right now you're skeptical about other people caring about. Or have yourself a sweet rivalry. I mentioned this the other day. You go back to the era in which I grew up, and all you Generation Xers remember this. There was a point in time when the greatest ambassador of IndyCar right now, Mario Andretti, was disliked. He was the antagonist. The crowd cheered when Tom Carnegie would suggest over the loudspeaker at IMS that Mario was slowing down. And now he is, right now, the greatest ambassador and likely one of the, if not the greatest ambassador of all time for IndyCar. Things do change. But a little soap opera would always help. It's great to love all these guys. Hey, that guy's a good guy. That guy's a good guy. Fantastic. A little bit of back and forth. A little bit of soap opera, a little rivalry going on in IndyCar would help. Because this is a situation, even with that new broadcast partner, they also have to help out themselves. We got that for you as well at 239-1070 on the road at Back 9 coming up on Friday. I better see you there. Great springboard on the deck at Back 9. I'm assuming they're going to have a band out there as well. They have a concert venue. They can have shows and such. Good times, it really is. Back 9 coming up on Friday. That's Deep Eddy Vodka. And yet another one of our party deck stops. We're going to be at Back 9. Just off of Morris, which is just off of Drover. Very easy to see, very easy to find. And we'll be there coming up on Friday. All right, busy show. Kevin Lee, 5 o'clock hour. All the Pascal Siakam conversation. Oh, some of you may suggest that this wasn't a good deal. But I would tell you why. What else were you going to do? What brainchild do you have that's better right now? Is it like Rex yesterday saying, well, you know what? I would trade Tyrese Halliburton. Here's what you should do. And I like Rex. I'm not mad at Rex. Like, people got on me yesterday because I didn't hang up on Rex. First of all, I'm not hang up guy. You can't fake being hang up guy. And listen, if you're going to be motivated with the time that you have to sit on hold, as long as some of you do, to come on the show, even as asinine as your opinion may end up being, it's okay. Because believe me, I've gone down that path too. I am the author of Must Wins in Week 1. I can't hang up on myself. I'm not going to hang up on you unless you're a real jackass, and then I will, but I'm not motivated to do it. Yeah, let other people do that. They can fake it, act like they're mad and not, make you think that they are. Nothing about this makes you mad, truly mad, where you take it home. So even an opinion about trading Tyrese Halliburton yesterday, which was a little bit awkward, but that's okay. All right, 239-1070 inside the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. That's the stream, the app. That's HD Radio. And Bowen from the morning show, KB and Andy, I believe it's what it's called, the morning wake-up call, and Vacation Mark Dykton, too. Kevin joins us next, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Thinking of popping the question? Diamonds Direct has an...
Sandwich of Dr. Pepper, make it fast. I'm in a damn hurry.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Kevin Lee, Pat Boyland still to come. Hey, by the way, for those of you asking, I will have Matt Painter on. I don't know, probably not until next week, but we do want to get his opinion regarding his former player, Zack Edey. And I actually talked to Matt a little bit today, so Matt should be good to go more than likely at some point early or mid next week, obviously prior to the draft itself, but we'll get thoughts from Matt. regarding Zack Edey going to the NBA with the NBA draft on the horizon. That is coming up next week. Back 9 coming up Friday, in fact, with me. Deep Eddy Vodka, Brent Halverson should be an absolute blast. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he is the morning show co-host along with Andy Sweeney. I like to reference it as Sweebo, the morning wake-up call with KB and Andy. Kevin Bowen joins us now. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, John. How are you?
We got some weird sounds in the background there. What's happening?
Yeah, sorry. I just fired up the car. I'm off to go pick up the kids. So, yes, hopefully those sounds will not be happening any other time.
So do you have a motor in the back of your Honda because your Anaconda don't want none unless it's got buns, hon?
I can't say I do. Boy, I had no idea that's where you're going with that one there.
No, you drive a Honda, right?
I do, yeah.
All right.
Honda Civic, indeed. Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Do you have a motor in the back of your Honda? My Anaconda don't want none unless it's got buns, hon. You know what song that is?
I can't say I do.
James, you know what song that is? What the hell kind of world am I living in? Are you serious? You've never heard Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot?
Oh, yeah. Boy, for some reason I was thinking of a different song that Anaconda, and I don't know. I feel like my wife used to sing it back when she listened to more hip-hop related music.
There is a Nicki Minaj song that has, I think, sampled from that.
James.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What?
I believe Anaconda Donk, if I'm not mistaken, on the exact lyrics there.
What kind of world am I living in when we get lyrics of Sir Mix-a-Lot confused with Nicki Minaj? What the hell world is this?
Sounds like you need to lead off Saturday night with a little Nicki Minaj right there.
I did.
Really throw people for a twist.
I did, and I was rolling through it one night, and it was a Skids mini mix, and I love DJ Skids, but he forgot to take out the F-bomb. I go, Skids, what are you doing to me here?
Yeah. It's got to be the edited version. I would venture to guess every Nicki Minaj song needs to be the edited version.
Yeah, I was just actually working on some stuff before I came on, and I've got The Dope Man by NWA Ready to Rock coming up on Saturday night. That's going to make his debut on B105.7. I love it. I do.
Hey, I've been meaning to text you. What's the number I need to call in? Because there's been at least a couple times on Saturday nights I've just, been scrolling through the stations, and I'm like, oh, man, I always feel like I sit here and call the wrong number. So what
it is the Indiana Donor Network Driven to Save Lives request line at 317-681-1057.
681. Okay, that's where I was screwing up.
681-1057. Hashtag JMV Takeover on the social media platform X.
Yeah, that's where I should go. That would be easier for me.
No, you got to call in. Don't do that. Like Gina Glaros of Channel 13, who hangs out with us, she and Lindsay Monroe, on Fridays when we're on the decks, the party decks, called in and requested Michael Jackson's Billie Jean for the first time.
Love that.
This past Saturday night.
Gina is great company.
She is.
With her brother and Carmel, and she and I did I think it was an Anthony. Yeah, it was right after the draft. Anthony Richardson related hit last April. So
did you date? Did your brother date her?
No. I was good. I was friends. Actually, one of my best friends was neighbors at the Glaros growing up. And we hung out with her little brother. No dating between Bowens and Glaros. None that I know of, I guess.
Well, I just wondered because it kind of sounded like with your reaction that maybe there was some dating going on that you didn't want to reveal here on the show. So I was going to dig a little bit deeper.
I think you would want to brag about that. I assume you would.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Yes.
Nothing on that end, but she's great.
All right, are you bragging about the deal, the 4-year reported deal for Pascal Siakam? That's max out extension money right there, but for 4 years. We knew it was coming. As soon as they made that deal, you knew that they were going to be attached to the hip with Pascal Siakam for the foreseeable future. In terms of evaluating the money, the contract, and what he offers to this team next level-wise, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you got to view it as the Pacers I guess won the deal. I don't know if you want to describe it like that, but the fact that you did stay away from a fifth year, albeit, that's way down the road to even think about, I do think that is an advantage for a team. If for whatever reason, you want to, trade his expiring contract that comes a year earlier, we know how, those can work in the league. And, who knows how things will be for Pascal and for the Pacers, 3 to 4 years down the road. But, yeah, I mean, the fact that I think you didn't commit to that fifth year is good news. And, it's probably something I didn't give enough credit to with Siakam at the time of the deal back in January. Of like, that guy is wired in a way that not all stars are wired, and that he obviously has a genuine interest to wanting to be here. Sure, the money is the most he could have gotten from anywhere, but not all stars are kind of created like that and made like that, or, their basketball careers aren't, Cameroon to New Mexico State to late first-round pick, A lot of these guys don't follow that sort of pattern. So I think Siakam's actions and words and kind of seeing that a little bit more up close, I think that matters. And I think Halliburton is wired in a very similar fashion. And that's important as you're trying to, get the big four-letter star word to want to be here and want to stay here.
So Kevin Bowen, morning wake-up call. KB and Andy's the show, 7 until 10 a.m. here on The Fan. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I know your certain level of infatuation for Benedict Mathurin. Have you allowed yourself a moment, like I have, to think about, were you a big cartoon watcher growing up? And maybe you still are, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know who
Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon.
Yeah, you know who the Tasmanian Devil character is, right?
Sure, yeah.
Can you
that's a pretty good description of Mathurin.
Have you allowed yourself he's like that anyway? Can you imagine what he's going to be like? You missed the entire incredible postseason run. You were going to be around Team Canada and their Olympic team, but not playing. And then once he is healthy at the start of the Pacer season, he is going to be unleashed upon the NBA nation. That is going to be very Tasmanian Devil-esque right there. I can't imagine. He's like motivated just by playing pickup basketball in general. I can't imagine the motivation he's going to have once the season and he is healthy is officially underway.
Yeah, I thought the dude was going to get kicked out of the All-Star Friday night festivities for being too intense, in that setting against Jaden Ivey and company there. And, yeah, I mean, so much of that, John, is just, frankly, how he's wired. But then to your point, you kind of throw gasoline onto that fire. And, they are only words, but unfortunately that's all we've seen from him in the last few months. I was rather in awe of kind of how he talked at that exit interview at the end of the season. Spoke in a very mature manner of, what the injury did to him, how he views himself within the Pacers or even the NBA landscape, and what's necessary for his game to grow. Now, I think it's really hard to get such a score attack-minded individual to maybe take a breath for a second and at times, realize, hey, the ball will come back to me. I don't have to be in that crazy mindset, 24/7 for a 48-minute game. So I also kind of view his game working more in the playoffs because things do slow down. It gets a little stagnant. And when half-court sets, start to stall out a bit, sometimes you just need individual bucket getters. And certainly he can do that. And, obviously for a team that doesn't give the foul line a whole lot, that's where he would step in. So, Rick Carlisle said to us that, morning after the Celtics, put the Pacers away in 4 of we've got to find one more star, assuming Siakam was, of course, coming back. And he made it very clear that that's internally or externally. And I think if it's internally, Mathurin has some of that star juice to him. And now it's all about, can he round out the game and especially give you something a little bit more on the defensive end of the floor. But, yeah, I can't wait to see him because for all those reasons you laid out, he's going to be insanely motivated, and he already is pretty.
I believe that they have that star power that you just referenced Rick Carlisle talking about within and growth. And I'm not talking about 4 years down the road growth. That's not at all what I'm about here. But I believe that they have that type of growing star power without having to go out and way overpay for a dude that I like in Mikal Bridges. But some of these trade scenarios and this rumor mill stuff is about as stupid as it gets. I think they have what is necessary in growth, to handle things defensively, especially on the perimeter, to handle things on the defensive glass. Now, they're never going to be able to rebound on the offensive glass, just never, ever with this group. So I'm resigned to that. But I think most of the issues that we saw this past season can be handled with what they have on this team without what you suggested that Rick Carlisle said to you guys a little bit earlier, looking externally. What say you?
Well, I mean, as much as I love Mathurin, I would be foolish to act like he is at a acceptable level on the defensive end of the floor. So that question remains for me. I don't think you have anywhere near, star level defensively. If you want to, look what Boston did to those other three teams in the playoffs versus what they did to Indiana. They really feasted offensively against the Pacers, and they didn't do it to that level against Miami and Cleveland and Dallas. So, again, I think if you want to continue to make playoff runs, that area of the floor is going to continue to be the question. And, you said this quite often about Tyrese Halliburton. Your best player can't be your worst defender. When you look at Halliburton and Siakam, you just look at the playoff run the Pacers had. In some way, you would probably rank the best players the Pacers faced in that playoff run, or the top bucket getters, however you want to describe it. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown certainly be on that list. Jalen Brunson would obviously be on that list. And then in the Milwaukee series, you'd probably put Chris Middleton and Damian Lillard. Well, Halliburton would never be close to being asked to be on that defensive assignment on any of those five guys. And Siakam was never asked to be defending any of those five guys. And that question remains with your two best players. You don't have defensive stopper mindset or anything like that. And I think that question moving forward is still there for this franchise. Can, Aaron Nesmith continue to grow? Is Jarus Walker, going to be that missing ingredient? Again, Mathurin, they've talked highly of him defensively, but it's very much I got to see that before I go there. So offensively, there's no question this team, I think, is equipped to be right there on a routine basis moving forward. But defensively, I can't go there.
All right, Kevin, let's end this thing with a really good fight right here. You think they should go out and get somebody? You have somebody in mind? Or are you okay with, losing Jalen Smith, and if you add somebody you can, if you don't, then bring back most of these guys? And I'm not using the phrase running it back because everybody equates that to the Colts and their lack of results. So I understand that. Everybody's worn out on it. So we'll say just going with and rebooting with most of these guys to be able to grow, especially with this team. Is that the path you would take, or are you looking for them to do something even more this offseason?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the camp of, I think you got to heavily listen to everything out there, because I think you do have some attractive pieces on your roster to other teams. And, so much of it I do think is like, okay, what is Jarus Walker? And that's a big, big question. And do you feel like there is enough there that he can give you something as early as next season as kind of that 6'7", 6'8", wing defender? Because as much as Nembhard and Nesmith, I think, are nice defenders, they aren't at that, 100% that's who you want on, Tatum or Brown or some of these guys you're going to have to go through it in the Eastern Conference to get there. So I'd be listening long and hard. I think I said to you maybe even last week, I don't view Nembhard next to Halliburton anywhere like we viewed, or at least I viewed, Turner and Sabonis. Like Turner and Sabonis, you had to break that up. I don't view Nembhard in that light, but if you were to tell me just to base off the equivalent of, whatever, you're packaging Nembhard together and all of a sudden you're getting a defensive guy that is more into that 6'7", 6'8" mold and can be that type of guy for you, and you still have, some combination of Mathurin, Shepherd and Nesmith to play in that, kind of 2/3 area. Obviously, the guy that you would move for Nembhard theoretically would be kind of in that 3 role. Then I think that's something you would have to look long and hard at, because, Nembhard's best position, I think, in the league is point guard. And so, if there's a team out there that views him as that, again, that's something you have to listen to. So to the run it back point, no, I don't think it's the same as the Colts. They obviously are putting so much into Richardson and a young secondary. I think guys like Mathurin and Walker and Nesmith, and just in general, the core as a whole, Halliburton was banged up, for the last couple months of the season. I get why the Pacers would view their run it back as still, a higher ceiling than just what that phrase usually offers. So to answer it, I'm listening to anything and everything because at this point with your roster, you don't have the lottery pick. You don't have the, tons and tons of cap space to go out there and make a significant move. So you're going to have to make some sacrifices if you want to get better. And if you don't feel like you can do that defensively with your personnel, then you got to listen to that. But I don't think it would be the end of the world if you ran it back just because you do have that young talent. Walker probably being the one that stands out the most. But at the same time, I think you'd be foolish not to at least, make sure you keep that ear close to the phone.
Yeah, I hope they do. I hope they stay relatively the same. And I want them to be known for getting a guy like Nembhard and certainly Mathurin. And we'll see about Jarus Walker. If he earns it, he does. If he doesn't, whatever. But I want to see them get these guys. Right now, I happen to think, that especially with Mathurin and Nembhard in mind, that they have no plan whatsoever to part with either in the foreseeable future. So it should be interesting. All right. Get that motor in the back of your Honda on down the road here. All right, buddy?
Anaconda Donk leading off 6 p.m., 105.7.
Yeah,
edited version Saturday night.
Well, you know what? We do 80s, some 90s, and 70s. If I started taking those type of requests, then I'd be like ZPL Jr., and I don't want to be Dave Smiley Jr. or anything like that. I'm already, the best DJ on a Saturday night here in town, the most renowned DJ, so I can't be playing stuff that Dave Smiley would be playing on a daily basis. Does that make sense to you?
Sure, but you might get an invite to DJ Roncalli's prom or something.
We got to keep it adult, a little bit more adult. Now, I will say you this: Laney's friends do call, but they know me. They call and request The Cure, and they request like more adult songs. So it's all good.
That is awesome. I love that.
Man, I appreciate you. Tell the family I said hello.
Will do. Great work on the golf on the back nine yesterday.
Oh man, I was cutting loose on that bad boy too.
You were. I've always thought you got an underrated golf swing.
I'm like that clown that used to bring his pool cue in his case to sports bar. That was me. I brought my
when you were like,
my one dog.
You were like, hey, you want the Callaway? I'm like, what? Oh wait, John brought his driver.
I did.
Was like, okay, yeah, I respect that.
It's like me. I'm the clown that brings the pool cue in his case on a Saturday night at Sports Bar in Bloomington. That's me.
I love it.
See you, buddy.
See you, John.
Kevin Bowen on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Pat Boyland, top of the hour. Hey, your calls. We got somebody standing by at Lucas Oil Stadium next to the pool. To that call, we don't any longer, according to James.
They're not at the pool. They want to talk about the pool.
Oh, the pool. They're not at it. They want to talk about it. Well, damn, that took a turn. Quick one, back with the next.
Golfers, you're invited to make the short trip.
Motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Round thing in your face, you get sprung. How would you not know this? Nicki Minaj over this? Are you kidding me? I don't care what age you are.
See, I know this song. I just didn't know the lyric, the specific lyric was from this song.
Make me so horny. Me so horny.
I've heard that before.
2 Live Crew. I don't know about some of the younger generation here. You guys got to get on the ball and learn some things. It's not like it was, and I know we're talking about, 30 plus years ago. But it's not the same. It is not the same. Like 30 plus years ago, prior to 30 plus years ago, it was much different because you didn't have all of that information at your fingertips. Just different now. I was watching an old Three's Company the other day, and there's Mr. Roper. Mr. Roper's right there. Mr. Roper, at that moment when I saw him, was 54 years old. That's how old I am. I don't look anything like Mr. Roper was not playing pickup basketball until 11:05 last night. I guarantee you, when he was 54. He was probably choking down a carton and a half of Winston's. He was not playing pickup hoop. 54 now is different than 54, 35, 40, 45, 50 years ago. So, James, let that be a lesson to you. It is very easy to understand and know generations that were so far long ago that even me, like some of this for you is like stuff back in the 40s and the 50s for me. We just didn't have it at our fingertips to go get. You do. Make a note of it. JMV, why are you going back and forth in a conversation with Mike Damone on X? Yeah, no, I saw that too. I'll share that with you. Speaking of back in the day. Pat Boyland is going to join us, too. You get the Fever and the Mystics later on tonight. Hey, your calls, if you're on hold, I'll get to you as well. Plenty of time for you in the 4 o'clock hour at 239-1070. The stream, the app, HD Radio, and the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Stay right there. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
If it's on your mind.
Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
4 years, max contract. Pascal Siakam discussion continues. Boyland, not right now, but a little bit later on this hour, so we have time for you at 239-1070. JMV, you were talking about the back nine yesterday, and taking your one dog, your driver, to the back nine is the equivalent of being back in Bloomington and having somebody bring in their pool cue in a case on a Saturday night at Sports Bar. Yeah, that was always the nerdiest of the nerd moves right there. That was the equivalent of the guy dancing by himself on the dance floor. And what's funny about the guy dancing by himself on the dance floor was that's exactly what John Travolta did in Saturday Night Fever, and then everybody loved it. Everybody cleared the dance floor. Like when I watch it, and I watch it whenever it's on, Saturday Night Fever, and he's out there with the Bee Gees, You Should Be Dancing, I go, what is this nerd doing? But everybody in the 70s in that era, he's like lauded. They love him. He's clearing the floor. He's the king out there. But we look at it like, hey, dork, what are you doing? Why are you out there by yourself? So that is the equivalent of me bringing my driver, as I did yesterday to our video shoot, to the back nine. In a long-winded, roundabout way. JMV, if Mr. Roper was 54, was Larry 21? Telling you, I watch old All in the Families, and Archie Bunker, Carol O'Connor, looks like he's literally 80. And he's 50. It was a different era. Much younger. Jim McCann writes this, and Kevin Bowen, actually our friend JMV, understated it when he said the best Saturday night DJ in town. Make that nationwide. California, Virginia, Washington, Florida, South Dakota, Texas, North Carolina, Vermont. True story. Nationwide on the stream and the app every Saturday night. I don't know why that thing is not on Network Indiana yet. You got all these local stations around here that clearly need some content on Saturday night. Yell about it. Get me on there with you. Although I will say this, once you do that, then I'm going to have to be hardcore about break times, and you know about that. James completely understands how hardcore I am on break times around here. JMV completely agree regarding all these rumors, especially surrounding Mikal Bridges. So Jarus Walker, Benedict Mathurin, and picks. Yeah, it's stupid. I could be proven wrong. I'm not trying to make some outlandish statement. I just happen to believe in those two guys in particular, Nembhard and Mathurin. Yeah, I don't know about Jarus Walker yet. Jarus Walker still has an opportunity to learn and earn. But I think you've got something good in Nembhard, something good in Mathurin. I don't know why you would want to jack with it. And maybe they don't. All right, before we get to Pat Boyland, there's a little bit of time here at 239-1070. Aaron can lead off this show in hour number 2. Hello, Aaron. How are you?
Hey, what's up, John? How you doing?
Good to hear from you, Aaron.
So tell James that was Sir Mix-a-Lot, by the way.
You got that right. James is writing it down right now.
I just wanted to make sure he knew what was going on there.
Thank you, buddy.
So we were talking. I called in for the query show about T-shirts, right? So how long are we going to wear T-shirts after we go to a sporting event? So in 2015, I won a world championship in grappling. And I don't wear that anymore.
Let me tell you this. So this is a true story right here. We had a friend of mine in 1985 for our Eastern High School baseball team. Eastern Green made T-shirts coming alive in 85 with our last names and numbers on the back. I wore that until 2007.
Okay, I got you.
Coming alive in 85. I wore it until it was ragged and holes in it. I wore it until you no longer could wear it. So, yes, I think 18 years is how long I wore it.
Be free. I go by PCU standards. You don't wear the T-shirt of the band you're going to see.
Well, that's understandable. The concert thing is different, but I think that you got my kids wear like old concert T-shirts. Lainey wears all the time Rolling Stones front and back concert T-shirt from St. Louis Steel Wheels tour. So she wears that. Blake wears Born in the USA from Springsteen from, I think, 84, 85, that tour. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand not wearing it to the concert, but, yeah, if it's especially real, authentic, old gear, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, is there?
I got you. Just don't wear a Justin Timberlake T-shirt that doesn't say DUI on it right now. But,
he's dealing with some stuff right now in the Hamptons, he is, yeah.
Fair. I just want to say, I'm a world champion in grappling, and I was on Team USA from 2016 to 2020.
What did you grapple?
So I kind of want to.
What was grapple?
Move the. Yeah.
Is that wrestling? Is that wrestling?
Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, everything. So I kind of wanted to pump us up a little bit. I have a gym down in Bartlesville. So
really? Well, pump it up too. See, I consider myself a world champion in grappling. I just think I use the word differently than you do.
Fair.
Where can they find your place?
It's called Center Grove CrossFit.
Yes.
And it's right south on 135.
South on 135 near what down there?
So not too far away from the high school, from Center Grove High School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Aaron, man, call anytime. I love to promote anything CG. Anything CG, and I really love kicking their ass when I play basketball against them too.
Well,
that's something else I love to do.
I like kicking their ass too. I like kicking their ass now too because I'm a high school coach at Martinsville High School right now.
Oh yeah, I got you. Yeah. You got a friend of mine, JB Neal, that's taking over the basketball head coaching gig down there.
Okay.
JB and his son Blake's really good, but JB will do you guys in the basketball program right down there for real.
Fair. Yeah.
All right, Aaron, appreciate the call, man.
Thanks, man.
Grappling. See, I'm a world champion grappler, but I guess I just kind of look at it differently there. It's a different form of grappling. If you're on hold, I'll get back to you in a second. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. He has been made aware that maybe he should not join this conversation in the direction in which it's going. The voice of the Fever, you hear him on the Pacer Radio Network as well. Pat Boyland joins us. Hello, Pat. How are you?
I'm good to verbally grapple if you'd like, but that's the extent of any grappling I'll be doing.
The world champion in grappling. Well, I just thought it was something different. He means wrestling, though. So, good switch hitting in grappling right here, too. So, not bad at all. Hey, so we're going to find you on Bally Sports Indiana tonight?
Yeah, we're on Bally Sports Indiana tonight. So the local package that we can do, meaning the games that are not on national TV exclusives, for example, Sunday's game against Chicago was one of those. It was a CBS broadcast, so we cannot run side by side. One of the great things about the Fever just catapulting into the spotlight like they have is they're getting on national TV a whole lot more. It does cut back the games that we can do. So there are 5 this season on Bally. The rest of them are on WTHR. This is one of our 2 Bally games, so wherever you watch the Pacers is where you can get us here tonight.
All right, so I will say this. I think the last time, or maybe the first time in this case, you were on Bally, for some reason it was blacked out, and then it was blacked out on NBA TV too. I'm not going to have to deal with that tonight, am I? And I shouldn't.
You know, I'm honestly not sure exactly how that works. I know there has been frustration in the past. I think maybe we even ran into that on a Pacers first-round playoff game. It would be one of those things where you would like if it was available on both. I'm not sure if there's a blackout, to be honest with you, and where that cutoff happens. But if you tune in, if you have Bally and you tune in on Bally, you will get it.
All right, so yeah, and I get all Pacer. That's the reason why I have DirecTV, because it sucks just like everything else does. But I know where you guys are going to be, so I end up. That's how I watch. I really have DirecTV just for that and to watch the Reds as well. So I'll be watching coming up later on tonight. Now, if I can't, make sure you tell Caitlyn that there's a reason behind it. Okay.
I certainly will see if you can be the motivating factor here and all that.
Hey, I will say this. The motivating factor, Pat, has been pretty easy. The ease up in the schedule, the time off has really done this team, I think, all the way around a great deal of good to kind of find a little bit of rhythm, which certainly was not around at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think that's completely accurate. As I think we talked about the last time that I was on with you, really starting that game against Atlanta last Thursday, begins the regular WNBA for the Fever. The beginning portion of the schedule was just, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything like it in basketball or in sports. Now, we all know that evens out, and so that is starting to even out here. A lot more days between games, a lot more time to practice, get your legs back underneath you. You're playing kind of the normal slate of opponents, which is some good teams in there, some mid-pack teams, some teams near the bottom. I felt like this 3-game homestand was a really big one for a couple of reasons. One, they then got a 5-game road trip coming up after this. Now, they will be able to come home, I think, for a portion of it, but 5 straight road games are coming up. And after the start of the season I think you looked at these 3 games that they're in the midst of right now, and I felt like they needed to go win at least 2 of them to kind of get your footing back underneath you and just gain some confidence. And so the win against Atlanta was a really good one. That's a certain playoff team with a couple of all-stars. And the Chicago one, of course, with all the spotlight and some of the drama that's come with Chicago and with Angel Reese, and to beat them a second time is significant. Because right now the Fever are in 8th, and that is the final playoff spot when the season ends, albeit not for a few months now. But the more significant factor there is you've beaten Chicago twice. So if you're in a playoff battle between yourselves and the Sky, well, you've only got to win one of the final 2 matchups against them to have the tiebreaker if that comes into play. So it feels like they've gotten their footing back under them with these last 2. I think with the 5 games coming up, tonight is a very winnable game. They've beaten Washington in Washington this year. I think if you get it, all of a sudden, you've got 6 wins. You're in the playoff picture. You've gained some confidence, and I think dug yourself out of that early hole.
So Pat Boyland's got the call of the Fever and the Mystics later on tonight. That's Bally Sports Indiana. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'm not sure, and you probably can't go too in-depth, if at all, regarding the report of Siakam signing that extension. So I'll try to keep this as vague as possible so you can actually answer the question. I like what this team looks like right now. Without a great deal of summertime additions, I think that gives you the opportunity to evaluate. And then if you want to do something at the trade deadline in February, you can. Would you be okay if the Pacers did trudge through this offseason and did really the minimum with what they have done so far and what they have in growth of this basketball team moving forward?
Absolutely, because I think they're in a really good place. And to clarify what you're referencing is a team employee until a reported deal becomes official. We cannot talk about it, but if you are able to bring Pascal Siakam back, I mean, that's the reason. You traded for him. It gave you a bona fide second star. The Pacers, some of their analytical more type of numbers were really good, like net rating and those type of things were really good once they got Halliburton and Siakam both back on the floor together down the stretch of the season. We saw what happened in the playoffs, but I'm even talking about before that. So I think there's some evidence there that if you are able to make that happen, that you've got a duo that works really well together, and you've got this young supporting cast. I think the great thing about the position the Pacers are in is they've got a lot of really good young players that I'm sure will be enviable to other front offices, and I'm sure they'll be fielding plenty of calls over there in the Pacers front office area during the offseason because the Pacers were on a huge spotlight, and a lot of those young guys really shine bright in the playoffs. So I think they're in a great position whereas if you can take care of business in the offseason, you don't feel forced into anything. If something significant comes and it works with all of the cap numbers and those type of things are way over my head. But if something comes to you and it works, I have no doubt that Kevin Pritchard would be aggressive in that regard because that's the mindset he's always had in the front office. But I think you don't have to force anything. You don't have to show your hand if you don't want to. The build that the Pacers are doing took that massive next step forward when you traded for Siakam. And with the growth that you've seen from the Nemhards and hopefully continual from Mathurin and Jarus Walker, you've got a great young crop too. So I think they're in a really good position, whether they want to get aggressive or whether they want to stay as is. And as you say, just because you don't do something this offseason involving a significant move of a player on another team, that does not mean any sort of window is closed to do something potentially around the trade deadline like they did with Siakam last year. In a future offseason, this team has a pretty good window, I think, right now. And the front office has a lot of options. Optionality is a word that Kevin Pritchard likes to use a lot, and I think they've got a ton of it here in the next year or two.
Yeah, for the present and the future, which I think is exactly what everybody was looking for when they were trying to build this thing. Certainly, you're looking even longer term, but this is also, to me, winnable with growth from within right now. Hey, Pat, have you happened to check out the training camp roster of the Canadian national basketball team that's going to the Olympics or training to go to the Olympics? Have you seen that roster?
You know, as I was getting ready for the Fever game here today, I got a buzz on my phone. I think Woj or somebody maybe had it, and that Nemhard, I think there's been some optimism that he'll be a part of it, was maybe part of that initial 20. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a fun-looking team right there with all these names. When you look at when you look at Murray, you look at Gilgeous Alexander. Obviously, Edey's a part of it. Dylan Brooks. You get Dort. You get Alexander Walker. R.J. Barrett is a part of this. Kelly Olynyk, or however it's supposed to be pronounced now. Dwight Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Nembhard, as you mentioned. They've got some really good, talented players as a part of this training camp roster.
And one of Canadian basketball's challenges lately has been getting all these talented players to actually play for the national team. There have been injury issues and some other problems, and I don't know the litany of them, but they've not fielded their A roster in quite some time. And I think when you look at world basketball as a whole, well, we saw what Germany was capable of here recently, and the European side of things continues to progress. But the two countries that really stand out to me that have made the most movement, the most forward impact in terms of their roster and the type of talent on it is Canada and Australia. I mean, if those are two countries that if they field everybody that they have in their pool, look, you hear those names and you don't necessarily say it's better than Team USA, but when you're Team USA, you can only play 5 guys at a time, so the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 down the line, of course, having that great depth is helpful. But the gap might not be as big as it seems between the U.S. and Canada. It's going to be a great opportunity if that does come to fruition for Drew, who, of course, is a guy that's still young but has a maturity beyond his years. I hope it works out for him, and I'll be rooting for Canada, I think, in every game that they're not playing the U.S. And to get this type of playoff experience for some of these guys and then hopefully Olympic experience as well. I mean, you talk about the potential to grow physically, mentally with being in some challenges and some big games and some big spotlight. I mean, Eastern Conference Finals run and potentially Olympics is about as good as it gets.
What time do you hit the air tonight with the Fever and the Mystics, Pat?
Yeah, we'll be on air right at 7 o'clock, and the nice thing about the WNBA is the game tips at 7:02. So we hit the air and the ball goes up, and we'll be underway. We don't have to tap dance our way through 10 minutes and a couple of commercials. I love that about the WNBA. You see a 7 o'clock tip, and it basically means a 7 o'clock tip. So Debbie Antonelli will be with us as always. And, again, Indiana looking for their third in a row, and would be significant, I think, after the way the season started with the schedule and the 3-9 kind of start, to have the ability to get your 6th win here, potentially third in a row. I think you could look back at this portion of the schedule at the end of the year and be like, this is kind of where things started to get propelling in the right direction. But we'll see. Washington, a team, not a good record, but they have won a couple in a row, too. They've got a former Olympian on their roster. And so we'll see how Indiana does here tonight. We'll be on Valley Sports Indiana.
Be watching tonight, buddy. I appreciate you hopping on here today.
Of course. Appreciate you.
It's Pat Boyland right there, the voice of the Fever, Pacers radio network as well. Find him on Bally with the Pacer Games post-game show, interviewing players in the locker room. That's Pat Boyland on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I mentioned I got some time for you. Give me Trey at 239-1070. We got some time before we have to go to a break. Hello, Trey.
How's it going, JMV?
Trey, I'm just spectacular. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, so I was calling in because, the Pascal Siakam signing, that was a big deal for the team and just everything going on with them. I feel like that was probably one of the best moves they could have made this offseason. I've heard a lot of talk of the team going for Paul George, though, and, I feel like that's not happening after, of course, that signing now. My thing is, I feel like we have a great team already, and I feel like we shouldn't make any moves this offseason at all.
I am right until further notice. I'm right there with you. Like, I'll give you a great example. I'd have to see more. Like, nobody can really tell you, other than Mikal Bridges, what that might be. And all we gets inundated with, Brooklyn would want, they'd want a combination of, either Nembhard or Walker and Mathurin. And Nembhard and Mathurin are completely off my list of those tradable at all on this team.
List too.
Completely.
Even Jarus Walker, too. I feel like we haven't seen anything from Jarus Walker. I feel like Doug McDermott honestly took a lot of his playing time that he could have had this season. I wish Rick got him in there and we could have seen some flashes of what he could have done this year.
Hey, Trey, positionless basketball, if a guy earns his clock, earns his minutes, you'll find a spot for his ass out there, right?
Oh,
That's simple. That's what he has to do. Anything else?
Well, no, that's all. Thank you.
Trey, you call anytime. Elijah's up next at 239-1070. Elijah, welcome to the show.
How you doing, man?
Elijah, great. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So, first of all, I wasn't even thinking about this, but now that you and Pat were talking about it, it's a joke how hard it is sometimes to watch a Fever or a Pacers game, for that matter, here in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I mean, just look what the Suns did. They literally just created their own HD antenna channel, and then you could sign up on their website, and they would send you a free Suns-branded HD antenna. The Pacers not attempting, and really the rest of the league not attempting to do something like that is, like you say, ass-hattery to the maximum extent. It's just unbelievable.
I will tell you this. That's the reason why, and a lot of people disagree with me. I pay a lot. It's stupid of me, and it sucks just like anything else sucks as far as getting your television content. But at least with DirecTV, with the Pacers, I know that Chris and Quinn and JJ will be there. That's why I hooked my mom up with it, too, because she was getting all pissed, and I can't find it. I don't know where it is. There is no foolproof source of your television content, but at least it's there, and that's why I stick with DirecTV.
I mean, that's a very valid point. But so what I originally called in for was I agree with pretty much 90% of what you were saying at the start of the show about the Pacers.
What's the 10% you disagree with?
Oh, yeah, don't worry. I will tell you about that. The idea that Jarus Walker needs to earn playing time, I think it's just it's not right.
Why?
7th overall pick. You don't draft a guy at 7th overall if you don't understand that there's impact that can be made on this team now. Now, I think Rick Carlisle has been good for us for the most part. I think he is what I would like to call a terrorist when it comes to things like rotations and guys who need minutes not getting them. He was a rotational terrorist in Mathurin's rookie year, and he somehow doubled down and was worse this year with Walker. I mean, there's no way you drafted a guy at 7th, and then Rick is just, he's not going to put in Doug McDermott. I think this is ridiculous.
I do like rotational terrorist makes me laugh, though, man. That's good, Elijah. Rotational terrorist, that made me laugh.
It's literally what he is. I mean, that's how I feel watching him sometimes. Not saying he's a bad coach. I like watching him growing up. I like watching him now. But, he's got a track record with having issues with young stars. It's the reason why he's not on the Mavericks anymore. So I think that's something that if it continues this year, maybe just keep it in the back of your mind as a Pacer fan. But absolutely get rid of Obi Toppin. No need to re-sign him. No reason to re-sign Jalen Smith. And if you can get rid of Isaiah Jackson, go ahead. Those three guys are more than replaceable. Jarus Walker can get Toppin's minutes. The other two guys you can replace with a mid-level exception player and free agency pool, and they will infinitely have more value for this team because they're going to be guys. You can go out and get guys that actually rebound and play low post defense, which are two things that we don't have. You're not getting that out of Isaiah Jackson, who is basically just a much, much, much worse Miles Turner when it comes to offensive production and rim protection, which is basically all he does for us. And as for backup power forward, you need a guy. You don't need a stretch forward backup. You need a back to the basket, can play defense, low post, can get rebounds. That's what the Pacers need on the bench. They don't need scoring. They don't need elite athleticism and stretch 4 and 5 play. They need download players. You can get that. They're dime a dozen, and they're out there, and they are integral for teams to make deep playoff runs. So that's basically the one thing I think the Pacers need to do this
Hey, Elijah, thank you for the call. I appreciate that. I do agree with the last portion of it. I don't agree with the, hey, throw him out there if he hasn't earned it stuff. I'll tell you what, I got time on the other side with your calls. I want to add to what Elijah had to say, play off of that a little bit. However, hey, James, I know you said we got a break, but I never listened to you anyway. I do want to get Frank on board here, who's been on hold over an hour, wanting to talk about the pool at Lucas Oil Stadium. Frank, I'm going to get you on here before the break. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, John. I was just hoping with all of your influences and stuff that you'd be able to convince the city to leave the Olympic pool up for an extra week so it can be open for public swim while it's so hot outside.
So, hey, Frank, would they allow me to get up there and do my famous can opener from the top of the scoreboard?
That would be wonderful.
Is it deep enough to do that? Because I don't want to end up hitting the bottom.
Deep enough to do it once.
So you are an advocate, Frank, of leaving the pool open for a week for a public swim.
For a public swim while it's so hot outside. If you can get that done, I think they'd put your name in the Ring of Honor.
Let's see if we can get that done. Where's Mike Fox? Mike Fox, who runs things down at Lucas Oil Stadium. We're going to see, Frank, if we can put your idea to good use. I don't know what they have coming up there in terms of scheduling issues, but we'll see if we can get that thing in there for another week for a public swim.
Well, you could even take the show out and make it the world's largest backyard barbecue.
I'd love that. As I'm telling you, I'd get shirtless and I'll do a can opener off that scoreboard.
All right. Well,
Thank you, Frank. I knew there was a reason why I took Frank before the break. So who can get that done? An extra week for Frank with the pool open at Lucas Oil Stadium. Now, I'm going to ask this. What if am I the first one to ask this publicly? Has anybody else asked? What if I wanted that Eiffel Tower in my backyard? Would somebody give that to me?
How big is that thing?
Big enough. Like 3 stories, maybe?
Oh, okay. Just like sticking a whole new building in your backyard.
I don't know if anybody has asked yet. And my neighbors are all freaking. I got 4 acres. I can put it right back there. I don't think Dennis Dietrich cares at all if I put that Eiffel Tower in my backyard. So I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if they're going to disassemble it. I don't know if they're going to auction it off. But what if I were to just ask, hey, if you guys need a spot for the replica Eiffel Tower, can you take it and place it in my backyard when this whole thing is over? So, all right, 2 things. 2 things, those that run this city, all those involved in the inner workings. Frank wants the pool open to the public for a week after the Olympic trials. And I think I'm the first one out there that wants the Eiffel Tower once the Olympic trials are over and put it in the backyard. It may take a little bit to get it down. Could we get it down Bluff? See, here, Indiana Railroad, you would have to wait until we got it. We have to get it down Bluff, and then we have to turn on Epler, and then we have to go on Epler all the way to 69, formerly 37, southbound all the way to 144, and then 144 in that new roundabout that's all jacked up because they're got bridge construction on 144 right there, and then go down into Waverly, and then up the hill in Waverly, past the elementary school. Is this doable?
I mean, are you talking all in one piece? Taking it all in one piece?
I don't know.
Kind of like
maybe so.
Like when they rolled the space shuttles out to the museums when they
get
retired
our state
them.
cop friends to like ride herd on it and make sure nobody goes.
Shut down the interstate for it.
Now, let me know if that can happen. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Your calls and me coming up on the other side. Kevin Lee is going to join us of NBC and Trackside right here coming up in the 5 o'clock hour as well. On the road coming up on Friday, I shall explain. And a great time to be had by all coming up in July at the place in which I'll be with you on Friday. Full-scale explanation coming up next. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
If you live in central Indiana, you probably...
He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Can make me happy. J-Law writes this: get the Eiffel Tower in your backyard, then add a signal booster to 107.5 on top of it. Where's the former AM? They still trying to sell that, or last place that used to own the station? They got that like hanging out, waiting to sell that so Pat Walsh can buy more bedazzled jeans. I think they are, James, right? Make sure you get that done. But yes, I don't know how much it would cost. Is there cost involved? Do they just need to find a place for it? Be a good spot in my backyard right there. That thing does look fantastic. Does. I did not know that Mike Fox was no longer at Lucas Oil Stadium. Hold the phone. Well, whoever is running it down there, can you get back with me? I thought Frank had a very genuine, certainly unique idea. Mine's a little bit more stupid, but I don't think there's anything wrong with what Frank had to say. Yeah, but the pool itself? True story. Pascal Siakam, it has been reported 4 years, maximum extension. Seems like everybody is pretty happy about it. You should be happy about it. I mean, hell, you knew that would occur once they traded for him. And he's really given you no reason to think that isn't going to work out. So good for the Pacers. And then you'll continue to see what this squad looks like moving forward, how you're going to handle, I should say, Andrew Nembhard. But I like the makeup of this team still. I do want to get back to what Elijah said. One thing he did say, there may be ways to get better backing up defensively in rebounding quality as far as free agency is concerned. There may be better ways to do that. However, I do disagree with Jarus Walker. Jarus Walker needs to earn it. What's wrong with earning it? Do you think that he should be thrown out there? I think Elijah referenced Rick Carlisle as a rotational terrorist. And while I think people probably do say that, I am absolutely somebody that believes that you have to earn minutes. And I'm not one that's going to sit here and tell you that it's going to be easy to lose or get rid of Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin was big for this team once he solidified in his position off the bench. I know that you drafted Jarus Walker in the lottery, but it's up to him, is it not, to show this team, the coaching staff, that he's ready to go? I don't think you just anoint somebody that way, do you? You guys agree with Elijah's take on that? You just anointed the minutes, or do you have to earn them? The hell's wrong with earning the minutes? So, again, that's that 10%. I completely disagree with that from Elijah. I do agree that you might be able to find some of the bits and pieces that will further help you out with this team and some of these shortcomings we're talking about, either defensively or rebounding-wise. I just don't think this team, with whatever you do, is going to be a good offensive rebounding team. But there are ways you can improve without that. There are ways you can improve defensively, especially on the perimeter. Thus, that will benefit your defensive work on the glass. I do agree with that. Hey, JMV, you know what's way, way old already? Paul George returning. He's not going to, and it doesn't work anyway. I will give you another one, too. OG Anunoby. Every time I see anything OG Anunoby, he's like whispering in the ear of Halliburton. He's going to whisper in the ear of the Knicks and go right back there. That's what he's going to do. I like OG Anunoby. He's a good player, especially when he's healthy. I just don't know why you're holding out hope that could happen, or you're holding out hope that Paul George is going to happen, because neither will. And neither will some of these ridiculous price tags regarding Mikal Bridges. He's a good player, and I like him. I just don't know where that crap comes from. Jim McCann states the next Lucas Oil Stadium event isn't until August the 8th with the Drum Corps International. Sounds maybe like it's a possibility for Frank's suggestion to come true. That is open up the pool. And an adult swim, is that what he said, or just an open to the public swim?
I think it was just open to the public.
Listen, no peeing in there or anything like that, all right? Actually, I was at my neighbors at the Watsons in the pool on Sunday, and they were all holding me to, hey, all right, if we don't see you get out of this pool in like a 3-hour period, we know that you're urinating in it. And I said, listen, I'm going to go out there behind the bush, and you'll know. I just don't want to crack the seal on my bladder. I don't want to, you guys don't want to do this either. You don't want to go out at night, right? You hold it as long as you can. You don't want to crack the seal on the bladder and make yourself a small bladder when you go out. Because then it's like a constant back and forth like you're Derek Schultz going to the trough. You don't want to be that guy. So I abide. I abide by the rules. Get up, get out, go to the bush, come back in. JMV. JMV, that trade idea from Bleacher Report is absolutely asinine. It is. JMV, the Pacers should leave well enough alone unless they get something up completely that will blow them and their situation out of the water. And I will say this. Pat Boyle and I were talking about this. They have plenty of time to make a maneuver if something's not going the way that you want. Don't you have time to do something about that prior to the trade deadline? I just don't happen to think that they want to even think about a jettison of Nembhard and Mathurin. So what else truly makes sense to you? You're right. Derek White says they have to install the brand new turf at Lucas Oil Stadium. So that indeed is coming up. JMV, as much as I like Frank's idea, the suits would probably nix the idea. Stinking suits, man. It's exactly what they're going to do. Does anybody know what they're going to do? Are they just going to, is disassemble the right word to use, the Eiffel Tower and then take it someplace?
I would imagine
What
so.
are they doing?
I'd imagine they're just
It's a
going to take
lot
it
of
apart.
work to just let that thing, like an erector set, disassembled.
If you see it sitting in a garbage can anywhere, I think you should probably just take it. Yeah.
Were they going to send it like Zor's garbage or the Zor's junkyard or something like that? What are they going to do with it? Somebody's going to end up having it. You'd have to think somebody's going to end up having it. It is cool. It is fun on the way in to see everything going around in the middle of the summer around Lucas Oil Stadium, and then when you're leaving, going around as well. Pretty cool. A lot of people in town, and I think sometimes we I guess because it's not a stick and ball sport, we minimize the impact that something like that will have on Indy, and it has been awesome to this point. James.
Just what you were talking about earlier about the size of the tower. I believe it says it's 7 stories high and weighs just a mere 18,000 pounds, so that should be easy for you.
It's 7 stories. I said 3.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Good observation. That's interesting. So, yeah, we'll just have to tear it down and
it's 18,000 pounds, so just put it on a trailer, hook it up to your truck, you're good to go.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Put that thing up.
Drive down
put
465.
a light on it because sometimes the planes go over the top of my house when they land at Indianapolis International. A light on top of that bad boy. Or when Denny Smith comes flying by on his, what the hell is that? Not a hydrofoil, but that'd be in the water. Whatever he has, one of those. He's got like a
paramotor.
Yeah, it's a I don't know what it is. It's got like a Briggs & Stratton motor in the back of it.
And
he's
got
flying
a
up
little
there.
Parachute thing on top.
Yeah.
Paramotor.
Cool. All right, quick one. We'll come back. And I have been watching the College World Series, Deaton's Docs. I think the College World Series is always a hell of a time. And those Texas A&M fans, they get into it a little bit, don't they? All right, quick break. We shall return. Kevin Lee is going to join us coming up at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. On the road at the back 9. That is going to be a good time. That is on Friday. Cannot wait to see you there with Deep Eddy Vodka. All right, quick one. We'll come back with your calls and more at 239-1070. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. With this reminder, they should be. Let me know if you don't get your tickets for Kenny Chesney tomorrow night. But I talked to Matt a little bit earlier. Those things are going out, and you should be good to go for the Chesney show coming up tomorrow night with our friends from AAA at Ruoff Home Mortgage Music Center. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
A quick question for dads.
Nah, this is bowling. There are rules.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, afternoon baseball today. Cubs 6-5, top of the 8th inning over the Giants. Actually, the Cubs led 6-1 at one point in time, trying to hold on right now. The Reds were blanked 1-0 today in an offensive juggernaut of a game. 5 hits in all. The Reds had 2 hits. 2 blank hits. Good Lord. 2 hits. Yeah, the starting pitching are pretty good. Hunter Green goes 6 1/3, 9 strikeouts. It was Mitch Keller. That was the starter for the Pirates. Those 7, 2 hit and 7 Ks. 2 hits. You get beat by a team that had 3 hits. Great. JMV, the handling of Jalen Brunson gives me pause for concern with Rick. How he is handling Jarus Walker is kind of weird. Brunson opted out of the offered contract, 4 years at $55 million, and became a star in New York after Rick held him back with minutes and opportunities. I know what Elijah had to say, and I know about the history with Rick Carlisle, but especially when they lost, for example, Mathurin for the rest of the season, if there was much to offer there, would we not have seen him? And we saw Ben Shepherd. I just think you would see him if there was any feeling that he was ready. This is positionless basketball. They would find a spot for somebody that was going to help them at the time. BT writes this, JMV, 2 groups of delusional Pacer fans. You guys ready for these 2 groups? The bring back Lance Stevenson crowd and the bring back Paul George crowd. Yeah, I love Lance Stevenson when Lance was here, but holy crap. It was fun to watch. Hey, JMV, leave it to Bleacher Report to come up with that trade. Just dumb. Here it is again. This is from Bleacher Report. This is such a clown show. Jarus Walker, Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, the 36, a 2028 first-round pick, and a 2030 first-round pick for Mikal Bridges. And the replica Eiffel Tower. Good God. Who the hell came up with that? That is a lot. I like Mikal Bridges. Don't get me wrong, and Mikal Bridges would strengthen beyond belief a team like the Pacers. But are you serious? All that. And you're right. That is Bleacher Report for you right there. In a nutshell. The responses from you have been, to date, absolutely outstanding. Appreciate that very much. It's from Jason. JMV, kids today have no idea who Sir Mix-a-Lot is? I'm convinced your station bros were exceptional nerds growing up. James, were you a nerd?
Absolutely, yes.
Were you a nerd, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you'll own nerdery?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, James is a nerd. So what do we think about Kevin Bowen? Do you think Kevin Bowen was a nerd growing up? Because he didn't know either. You guys both went with Nicki Minaj. You think Kevin Bowen was a nerd?
Yeah, I mean, if he was with me on the whole Nicki Minaj thing, probably.
Right, here's what I'll do. We'll ask. We'll ask the question for somebody out there that knows Kevin really well, maybe even grown up with Kevin. When Kevin was growing up, much younger age right now, we know he's no longer nerdy, at least to a level in which we're describing right here, but was Kevin nerdy growing up? Was Kevin nerdier than Andy Sweeney growing up? Who was the nerdiest? Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney, or Vacation Dykton? JMV. Saturday afternoon, about 2 p.m., I ran across a random ultimate Frisbee match. I saw this too, and it was John Herrick calling it with some girl or lady or whatever on it was on RTV6, Gregory. I watched it too. It was Minnesota. It was the Minnesota Chill or Below Zero or something, and the Indy Alley Cats. I watched that too. My point is, most of the time I can't find a Fever game. Why can't our local affiliate step up? Why is it so difficult to find a Fever game when all of a sudden I stumbled across Ultimate Frisbee? I saw the same thing, man. Same thing. The Indy Alley Cats and the Minnesota Below Zeros or the something. That's awesome. JMV, with the Siakam getting the extension, do you think they try and move Walker? That Bleacher Report trade proposal is just dumb. Mathurin is going to be a big addition to the team. I cannot wait to see Mathurin. I wouldn't mess with Mathurin. I wouldn't mess with Nembhard at all. And I don't think they want to. I don't think they're going to either. That they believe in what they have right now. Kevin and Lee on the other side, we got some soap opera stuff going on at IndyCar too, and a change of handler television rights-wise. We'll talk to Kevin about that and more coming up. Me and you on the other side next too.
A slow network is no network.
The Ride with JMV.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
James over there, I'm John. JMV, if Kevin Bowen said he didn't know who Sir Mix-a-Lot was, it would be the first time he ever admitted to not knowing something. So James suggested he was a nerd growing up. And in part, the reason why we asked him that question was because he didn't know Sir Mix-a-Lot and Babies Got Back. Kevin Bowen of the morning wake-up call with Swebo didn't know that either. They both referenced Nicki Minaj, so we were asking the question, I think the fair question, if Kevin Bowen was nerdy growing up. Since James just basically owned it. Say, I was a nerd growing up. I was a dork. Spaz. Dweeb. All that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if anybody out there grew up alongside our good friend Kevin Bowen on the morning wake-up call with Swebo, get us that info. Stat. Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He's our friend. He knows all about open wheel, IndyCar, from NBC and trackside with he and Kurt Cavan weekly here on The Fan. Kevin Lee joins us now. Hello, Kay Lee.
Hello, John.
No, you weren't a nerd over at Ben Davis growing up, were you?
Can you be a nerd if you're a disinterested and very mediocre student?
Oh, no, that actually means you're cool.
So that would, because I might have teetered in that area, but I didn't have good enough grades to be a full-on nerd, and I played too many sports.
Here's what always has bugged me about you, Kev. It's Jackson Lee is like 6'8". What the hell happened here? That pisses me off.
He shouldn't have been a race car driver. He should have worked harder at baseball. Unfortunately, 6'4" is not big enough to play basketball unless you're really quick.
He is where did he get that height, though? And listen, you're not short, but, man, it's amazing how big he is.
Yep, mom's brothers, mom's family.
So well done. How's he doing, by the way?
He's good. He's doing sports car racing in IMSA, and it's going well. It's provided some greater opportunities. He's doing a lot of coaching. He's rarely home. I think he's in Cincinnati today coaching. He was at Road America last weekend, raced at Mid-Ohio right before that. So he's employed, so that's a good thing.
Of course, those of you out there that may not know, and you should, Jackson Lee is the son of Kevin Lee, who's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline with us right now. What is the goal, in-game goal for Jackson?
To get paid to work in the racing industry is really it. Like most is to get to the Indy 500, and that could still happen, but realism kind of comes into play at some point unless you've got a link to $10 million or you win every time you get in the car. There are opportunities, and there are a few that have done it, like a Kyle Kirkwood that did not come from money. Joseph Newgarden didn't come from money, and those are the very rare talents that get it done. So you've either got to win basically every time you sit in a car or you start grinding and looking for other opportunities, and you do a lot of coaching. So sports car racing is where most that don't quite make it to IndyCar end up. And what we found is that the training you get in Formula car racing translates really well. You get in a sports car and, even though you're 4 or 5 years behind doing it than others, you find out that you can be quick almost immediately, and he has been. So that's been good. And then you the price goes down, and then all of a sudden you're driving for free, and then you get hired, and you're getting paid to coach. So, we're not quite all the way there yet, but that's the plan. That's the goal, at least.
He is Kevin Lee of NBC. That's awesome because Jackson is an awesome kid. It's great to see that success with him. I am curious about the whole growing up with money, and that's true across racing. Would you suggest that 90% of those that we know in racing, and certainly those that are successful in it have grown up with a more than reasonable amount of disposable income to put into their growth as a driver?
It depends on how you want to define wealthy, but 90% is probably accurate to some degree. It's probably more like in the 75% massively wealthy, because let's face it, even go-kart racing is expensive, and we're not poor. We've been very blessed that we do well, but we couldn't afford more than $10,000 or $15,000 a year for go-kart racing, and you have to at least be able to do that kind of investment, and a lot of people can't do that. So maybe it's similar to golf, that you have to have, generally speaking, more often than not, access to country clubs and the right kind of training and so forth. But even if you're massively wealthy, if you're not good, you eventually just kind of go away. Mom and dad paying for it eventually decide that this isn't really worth it. No matter how much money we have, we're not really interested in just wasting it. So, for families of means, it just becomes an investment. And then there are some that have done it the way we have, that are able to come up with partnerships to fund it along the way. And that's what we did. And there have been a few others that have done it that way. But there are people that don't come from massive amounts of money, that you just meet the right person. The story of Zach Veach a few years ago getting referred to Dan Tauris of Gamebridge, and that's what funded his first Indy 500 opportunity. And then 3 years in IndyCar, and now Dan Tauris is the co-owner of Andretti Global and is kind of the motivation behind them trying to get into Formula One. So you just never know who you might meet.
So Kevin Lee's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Give me great examples. Chase Briscoe, because I know his father was, I think, a World of Outlaws driver.
They don't have money.
From Mitchell, Indiana. They didn't come from money, right?
No, I know Chase fairly well, and he's just a great example. He was sweeping floors at the race shop and just begging to get in their ARCA car. He had done some dirt racing, and they gave him a test, and he was good. And it just kind of went from there. And then, you meet the right person. He's met a couple of people that ended up being sponsors to help his program when he was in Xfinity. But no, Chase is a great kid. He's not a kid. He's in his mid to late 20s now. But he's an example, and there are some like that just have enough talent, and you have to find someone that believes in you. So that's always the dream, and that's the goal.
It's Kevin Lee of NBC, of course, trackside here with Kurt Cavan on the Fan. He's with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So we got a little bit of a soap opera drama, and I know it's kind of been dialed down within the last hour or so with Tony Kanaan responding to an ex-post of Scott McLaughlin. Explain to everybody what's going on behind this, because I love it. I do, especially IndyCar. You need another layer. We've always talked about the layer of soap opera-like stuff. It seems like this is going away right now, but maybe talk to people, tell people out there exactly what's going on, what is behind some of these comments being made.
Well, it's mostly just a couple of jokes on social media, so I don't think the Kanaan McLaughlin thing is that big of a deal, but it really started with yet another driver announced to finish the season for Arrow McLaren. So this really started 2 years ago when Alex Palou, driving for Ganassi, was announced as an Arrow McLaren driver. And there was a fight over his services, and he eventually backed out of that deal last summer. But he was meant to be driving the number 6 car. Then Felix Rosenquist was driving it for a while, and he got tired of, kind of being the one in waiting, and he signed with someone else. So they signed David Malukas to drive that car this year. He fell off his bike, broke his wrist, never drove the car this season. So then they hired Callum Ilott to fill in for a couple of races, but he was busy driving in Le Mans World Endurance Championship races. So they hired last year's F2 champion Théo Pourchaire, and he was announced to finish the rest of the season. And then yesterday it was announced, never mind, Nolan Siegel, who's a really talented 19-year-old in Indy Next, the step below IndyCar, that he had decided he's ready to give up on his Indy Next championship goal this year and is ready to go to IndyCar. And we want him because we think other people are interested in him long term. So they signed him and said, thanks for your services, Teo. You're no longer needed. So that's the most recent. So what we're up to like 4 drivers in that car for this season. And McLaughlin's humorous tweet using I guess a meme said, let's take a moment of silence for all the tree sacrifice for McLaren contracts. And I've said that before, that sometimes racing contracts are really merely just a suggestion.
Right.
They're not necessarily binding. And Kanan is the sporting director for McLaren, and so he pushed back with a push-to-pass comment going back to St. Pete and McLaughlin and McLaren. So that's always going to be one that you can have on the Penske drivers for a while. They try to take a crack at you. You can come back with, you guys got caught breaking the rules at St. Petersburg. So There you go.
And you know what? You can own it and penalize yourself all you want, and that's never going to be wiped away, is it?
It's going to be remembered by certain people. Yeah, it definitely is. And, no one really knows fully the whole story of exactly what happened. But Roger Penske says he looked into it. It makes no sense that Roger Penske would have been okay with this. And they convinced him that it was just simply a very, very bad mistake and not done on purpose. So that's what we have.
So Kevin Lee is with us via the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. What do you think IndyCar is right now in terms of what is necessary? I don't know how much you're going to be allowed to talk with the television partners and where that is going. And please stop me if you're not allowed to talk about anything. But people have asked me, about the ultimate changeover from NBC to Fox. And while I have said, okay, it looks fine as long as it has Kay Lee a part of it, and you know where I stand with you being a part of the broadcast. But I also think that IndyCar's got a great deal of responsibility here, too, to be more than just what many believe to be 2 weeks in May, to grab and get and to cultivate more of a viewing audience, a more certainly hardcore viewing audience out there. Where does it stand right now with all that in mind?
So that's a great debate within the sport, because those that are in the sport get a bit annoyed of how much attention is paid to the Indianapolis 500 and how it is so 465-centric. The other argument would be, though, that is our crown jewel, and that's what makes us relevant. Nobody knows anything other than the 3 Triple Crown horse races. So that's, what you use to finance the rest of the sport. And there's still a decent amount of people. There's more people watching IndyCar races than any of the other horse racing events. You still have well over 1 million people for the races that are on network television most of the time. So there is some health there. I think the basic thought is it's a fine line. You need to use the 500 to promote and to try to grow the rest of the sport. And then you take advantage of it when you can, which is the Indy 500, which is 5 times your audience and the opportunity to do something more, because even people that are not IndyCar fans essentially admit, you hear big-time NASCAR people say, that's the biggest race in the world. So that's what you have. As far as the television deal, I will admit that selfishly I was hoping that it would stay with NBC, and I kind of thought it would, because I didn't think, and most of the people I had talked to didn't think Fox was going to offer every single race on network television. At one point, the rumors were that they're offering a bit more money, but not nearly as many network races. So we thought it would stay, and that's best for me because I would be more likely to have a guaranteed job next season. But they came back with every race on network television, practices and qualifying on either FS1 or FS2, and FS1 is strong. Maybe not quite the streaming component as Peacock is, but every race on network you cannot turn down. That is huge. NASCAR doesn't have anywhere close to that. No sport has that at this point. You get some fresh energy involved. You try some new things. You get creative. It helps from the sponsorship side with the teams. So no matter what might be best for me, this is best for IndyCar. And my situation is my contract's up at the end of the year. There won't be a lot for me at NBC, if anything. I might be able to find something in NBC, so I'm pretty open that if they'll have me, I'll move to Fox. But that's to be determined. They won't get to announcers for a few weeks.
I have started with here on this show to make sure that you're a part of it, because nobody is more knowledgeable than what you do. And obviously, we're
you have that
connected
kind of
because
juice?
we're friends.
Is
well,
Eric Shanks a listener?
I've already reached out to Eric Shanks. I'm a little pissed
Okay.
because he says he's busy right now. And you're not too busy to pick up the phone and call this show. Because, listen, he went to Northview High School, and that's in Clay County, which is next to Greene County, and I went to Eastern Greene. We have a lot of similarities. Now, he went to IU, I went to Indiana State, but we can meet in Bowling Green, Indiana, right there in the Owen County, Clay County line, and talk this thing out, because I'm not watching the second without you, brother. Not a second.
Okay,
Nothing.
I appreciate that.
No, I'm not watching the second. So I've reached out to Eric Shanks, but I think, James, what did the person handling his suggestions say of coming on the show? James is not listening to the show right now. What did he say, James? Say?
I'm sorry, what were we
What
saying?
did Eric Shanks' person say to you? A Fox? Forget it. Eric Shanks' person said that he was busy right now, and maybe in a week.
That's not bad. I suspect he is probably pretty busy.
Not that busy. You can pick up the phone.
Not that busy?
5 minutes. 5 minutes between Southwestern Indiana dudes
he's
right
an Indy
here.
500 fan, so that's exciting. And that's the key for these kind of things. You have to have a champion at whoever your television partner is. Same thing in sponsorship. You know, if a team is going to try to do a deal with a corporate entity, there has to be someone there that is a champion of the sport that you're involved in. And that's why Fox was interested. And this is what makes me think IndyCar is in a really good place, because they had two major networks that were really interested in a partnership. NBC didn't just say, sorry, we're out. NBC wanted to keep this. And they presented what I believe, I don't know the exact details, but I think it was a good offer. And up until a couple of weeks ago, there was still some thought that they might be able to retain it. So the fact, and I'll also say this, I can't speak for IndyCar either, just like I can't speak for NBC, but I think IndyCar was happy with NBC. So that tells you that this was a really good deal and a really good offer from Fox to try to take the sport to another level.
Well, and we have I went to Indiana State, and when I went to Indiana State, I think he may have been done right then. Maybe he was still playing. I can't remember. Kenny Rowan was playing from Northview High School, where Eric Shanks went. So we have the Kenny Rowan, I believe, has now been a long-time Indiana State policeman. I could be wrong now. Maybe he's no longer that, but he has been that. So we have that common thread of Kenny Rowan conversation. So, yeah. Just kind of waiting on his handler to cut him loose from a couple of responsibilities to come on. But do you feel pretty good? Have anybody contacted you about that possibility? Because to me, it would be senseless not to bring you along for this.
Well, here's the deal with these kind of things. A network is going to have some people they already want to be involved, and they are already in the motorsports business, so they're going to take a look at their people that work on NASCAR and NHRA. And, you know, I think IndyCar, IMS Productions, Penske Entertainment will have some say, but the network generally has final say. So ultimately, I don't know. There's not going to be many spots open, because I think some of the people that are already there are going to get some of the spots. So there's maybe one or two potential positions open, but I would suspect they already in pencil have some people that work on Fox Motorsports that are going to fill some of these roles.
You got this one, buddy. There's no way they're going to move forward without you. No way.
Okay. I'm glad you have confidence.
I do,
We'll
bud.
see. It'll take a little bit.
Yeah, I do. So Kevin Lee's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Also a tremendous baseball historian. And last night, the sad news that Willie Mays passed away at the age of 93. So I immediately went to, and I know that you probably remember this as well, back before you have all this nonsense of talking heads yip-yapping all day long on ESPN, they had a variety of things from log rolling to workout shows with Kiana Tom, everybody, to the old home run derbies. Black and white home run derby. So I immediately went to a 1960 K-Lee home run derby between the late Mickey Mantle and now the late Willie Mays. Man, that type of programming makes a guy feel good right there.
So, who was the name of the host? Somebody 5
Mark
or 10 years
Scott,
ago.
I believe his name is. Look that up. Mark
Google a
Scott.
picture of him. Someone sent a picture and asked if I was related to him. And the
Yes.
picture from the angle they had, it actually did kind of look like me.
I believe his
that
name
was
is
old
Mark
daytime.
Scott. Yes,
Yeah,
Mark
I would've
Scott.
got that.
He was an actor, Mark Scott. Mark Scott passed away. He passed away the same year I watched this episode, 1960. He was an American actor and broadcaster, best known for hosting Home Run Derby, that television show that originally aired back in 1960. He originally was from Chicago, Illinois, and evidently passed away at the age of 45 in Burbank, California in 1960. Let me see here. As an actor, he had minor roles in television programs such as Dragnet, and was an announcer in 1956 for the Cincinnati Redlegs of Major League Baseball, and in 57 for the Hollywood Stars of the PCL. That's the Pacific Coast League, which transferred out of the city after the season due to the arrival of the Dodgers from Brooklyn. Home Run Derby, Mark Scott, you do look incredibly alike. You do.
Those were filmed at Wrigley Field in
Yes.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you see, there's
Yeah.
houses right behind the wall there.
I don't know what happened to Wrigley Field, what became of it, but those are the obscure factoids that I remember, and that's how we spent daytime in the 1980s.
That was
Watching
great.
Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Mickey Mantle and Home Run Derby.
Yeah. I didn't know it had such a...
Willie Mays was awesome. I went to... We were both kids when this happened. Do you remember the exhibition Old Timers game at the Hoosier Dome in like 84 or 85?
Absolutely.
So I was standing out in left field, which is a very short, the way the configuration was, I'm going to say it was like 290 feet to left center.
It was, yeah.
So these old guys were just launching, and I almost got a Willie Mays home run ball. But I was standing out there when Willie Mays and Hank Aaron were taking batting practice, and that was pretty cool.
Man. Now, at the time, you knew that was a big deal, but you had no idea how big of a deal that was compared to now. Well, that's an oh wow now with all those names.
Yeah. The Old Timers games were, kind of a big deal in the 80s and maybe up through the early 90s, but mostly the 80s.
Man, it's
and as old guys now, I kind of get it. I feel like I could still hit the ball. And I wasn't even very good. So certainly these guys, what was it? Luke Appling was 75 and hit home run. I get it now. If you can hit, you can hit. Can't run.
It's who's your all-time favorite player that you never had the privilege because of your age to watch?
Joe Jackson, shoeless Joe Jackson.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that until I just asked that question regarding
I don't
me.
know that I'd ever thought of it either.
Yeah,
but
that's
I like history, and that's that is not a simple story of the Black Sox, and I've read several books on it. I think I wrote some term papers on it in college, arguing both sides of it, just because you had to pick a side and argue it. But yeah, I think that was always a fascinating story.
Were you in the crowd? Were you in the crowd for 8 Men Out when it was filmed here in '88?
No, I think I was probably playing high school baseball at the time. Was that done in the spring? No, it was more in the fall, wasn't it?
I think it was cold out there a couple of different times. You could see the breath.
Cold.
Yeah.
No, I didn't go out, but I do remember when they were bringing people out for that.
I had
Didn't get to hang out with Charlie Sheen either.
I had John Cusack on the show. This was probably 3-4 years ago. And, of course, he was a part of that cast for 8 Men Out, and he started telling me the story about – he was talking about a bar where he and Sheen would go all the time when they were done to do their night work and, do whatever they did at the time. You can only imagine if you're hanging out with Sheen. And that was inside the Adams Mark Hotel was the nightclub / bar where we figured that out, where they
the one
they went all
by
the time.
the airport.
Yes. Now I probably could have told you earlier today what the name of the place was, and now I have conveniently forgotten. Golly, somebody will be able to tell me in 5 seconds what it is. But it was a notable pickup bar during that era. It was. It's not Clancy's. It was Sauce. Clancy's a hamburger place. God dang it. But no, he told that story, and it was awesome about the time he was filming here in Indy. And Sheen would lead the way with everybody going to that bar, that pickup place. Quincy's. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I Googled it. I cheated.
Well, and Michael Smith just jumped in here with it as well. Quincy's and the Adams Mark is where that cast picked up a lot of chicks, evidently.
I think I went to a New Year's Eve there once in the 90s.
That was a good time. I went there a couple of different times, too. Yeah, I went there, and then always the night before the 500, we would go to what used to be a little bit of Texas. It was called Trimmers inside that bar back then. And
yeah, Lyndhurst Bowl.
Yeah, get introduced to a lot of old school West Siders back then.
Yep.
So
If I want to have a high school reunion, that's where I would go to.
It had that little dance club inside of it called Trimmers.
There was a lot of Ben Davis there. No doubt.
Yes, there was a lot of Ben Davis and a lot of Decatur Central in that joint right there. So It was all good. Kevin Lee's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline with us. All right, Laguna Seca. By the way, Blake, my son, loves livery, and he just sent me the IndyCar livery this weekend for it's Mobile One, I believe, in Graham Rahal. Is that true? It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's celebrating an anniversary. It's a gold car. That's one of the teams that does excellent work when it comes to partnerships, and you've got to be on your toes because the cars look different every single week, but that's what pays the bills. So, yeah, it'll be fun this weekend. Laguna Seca is, while it's 95 here, I am not super sad to go out there where it'll be 68 in Monterey over the weekend, so I'm quite happy to leave tomorrow morning. We're on USA Network. We've got a good lead-in. We've got the NASCAR Cup race. You can watch racing all day on Sunday, right here on the radio, I assume, as well, but we'll be on at 6, and I think green flag is at about 6:20 Eastern time on Sunday evening. And I'm in the booth this weekend.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, well, and Blake watches every race, and he loves, obviously, livery, things like that. He talks about it all the time, so I'm sure he'll be watching. Now, Monterey, California is seriously like top 3 places in the United States where you would want to live, correct? Or not you in particular, but just in general, people would want to live, right?
I think so. If you have a spare few million,
yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's nice. You're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so it's not for everyone, but it is a wonderful place to visit. When people always ask, if I want to do an IndyCar race and do more than the race, that's one that's high on the list. That if you can stay in Carmel by the sea, you can go up and have a drink at Pebble Beach in the restaurant there, and just kind of see the sights. It's fun, and the racetrack is cool. It's open. The garage is usually open for fans to kind of visit. So it's a good weekend. The weather is always really, really nice.
That's what they say. You can check it out. He's in the booth on USA coming up on Sunday. Laguna Seca with IndyCar. Friend of the show who will continue moving forward with Fox. And if he doesn't, there's going to be hell to pay at Fox. So just know that to be true. We'll be fighting for you, brother.
So I can tell my agent to stand down that you're taking care of Eric Shanks, so he doesn't even need to reach out.
You have an agent? You have an agent?
I do.
What?
I'm not sure if that's helped or not.
Is it a local agent?
What? No, it's from one of the big firms.
Man.
Well,
I've never had an agent. I don't even know if I have a contract, right? But full disclosure, I have no idea. I don't know if I've signed anything in 3 years. I have no idea.
I don't think I ever had a contract in radio, and I was fine with that because if you have a contract, it expires at some point, and they have to decide whether they want to put up with you for another 2 or 3 years. So I survived a long time just getting paid every 2 weeks. I would stick with that. That's my advice to you.
Can you imagine me? Yes, I need an agent here. I wear basketball shorts to work every day, and yeah.
There are a lot of radio people that have agents, but I think that's probably a waste of money.
Yeah, my financial advisor is my friend and insurance agent, Brian Neer. He knows all of my financial affairs. That's who handles my stuff.
You just need somebody to look at the contract.
Lee, man, I appreciate you more than you know. We'll stay in touch here and let us know if anything breaks, okay?
All right. Thanks, John. Talk to you later.
It's Kevin Lee on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He is one of the best to ever. We were talking about Dave Calabro. I should have brought that up to him, too. Retiring after 32 years and how great Dave has been around here. That's somebody else that's going to get so much love because he has had such a meaningful career. And it's not going to end anytime soon, but he is a tremendous guy. Guy's guy right there, Kevin Lee. The Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, Kevin and Kevin again every week right here on The Fan as well. Road show on Friday, that's with Deep Eddy Vodka. I'll explain coming up here in the final 30 strong at 239-1070. Back to your calls next.
Summer weather is finally here, and that means it's time.
consider me Miles Davis.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So Jim McCann sends me this. We were talking about Home Run Derby and the passing at the age of 93 last night of baseball sports icon Willie Mays. And Kevin Lee and I were having that conversation talking about Home Run Derby, where it was filmed, and the Wrigley Field in Southern California. So Jim McCann, who lives and listens from Southern California, chimes in with this. 1961, the only season the expansion Angels played at Wrigley Field. 248 home runs were hit in the stadium. A major league record at that time. And I just sent that out to Kaylee. You can check it out as well. It certainly has a very friendly left field fence right there. But I immediately, in finding out the passing of Willie Mays, I went to one of those episodes of Home Run Derby. If you remember the 80s, late 80s stages of ESPN in the afternoon, these things were on all the time. Think about what we got to watch. Now you get like endless Stephen A. Smith, for example, or endless Mike Greenberg. And this is why people say, man, why do you talk about the 80s or the late 80s or old school so much? It's because we got to watch Home Run Derby. We got to watch log rolling. We got to watch Denise Austin work out. We got to watch Kiana Tom work out. It was a glorious time. So why would we not celebrate those moments of glory? There were some times I thought, okay, I know I got to go to this English class, but this is what Kiana Tom has on today. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. The hell with English today. Did you see what Kiana Tom was wearing? It's beautiful. So, yeah, there's a reason why. It's justified. We're talking about that. It's outstanding. Hey, if you missed yesterday, by the way, too, speaking of old school, 32 years of Dave Calabro at Channel 13 WTHR. Dave joined us yesterday. It was outstanding. And hired me, by the way, too. Hired me to do 3 years. I want to say I was 3 years. I think it was, oh, hell. I don't know if it was 3 full. It was close to it, though. I think pretty much close to late 06 into 07. And then I was done, I want to say in and around late 09 when they said that they were downsizing. They were going from 4 to 2. And that's when they went. I was doing sports, and Nicole Masensic at the time was doing weather. Jeremy Brilliant and Chris Kirshner, awesome as well, doing news. And then they downsized. And I think at that time it was still Chris and it was Nicole doing news and weather. But it was a hell of an opportunity to have a great time. What a great group over there, too. Great group. But Dave Calabro around here has been an institution. JMV, I love the Kiana Tom reference. 2 words, smoke show. Yeah, what she had on in her workouts dictated whether or not I was going to make it to a class. That's ESPN. 239-1070, James. Give me Bill, who's on hold here. Hello, Billy. How are you?
JMV, how are you doing, man?
Great, Billy.
This Friday, the Beatles had a great song on the White Album called Back in the USSR, but this Friday it's all going to be back at Back 9.
You're going, aren't you? You're going to be there, won't you? Oh, yeah.
You bet. And also there's a couple of local guys that are actually swimming in the U.S. National Masters swimming tournament that's happening down at the natatorium, and I think they're going to come as well. So that happens on Saturday.
We got the Channel 13 ladies, I believe, are back after a 1-week hiatus. So we'll have Lindsay Monroe and Gina Galeros with us coming up on Friday at Back 9 too.
Well, there's a storm in my heart for that weather girl. So
well done, buddy.
That's all I got to say. I think I might get arrested if I say any more.
Yeah, just keep it right there. Keep it legal, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, man, on this day 48 years ago, the ABA and the NBA merged. And so the Pacers, the Nets, the Spurs, and I'm leaving somebody out, and I can't think of the Nuggets all came into the NBA on this day.
That kind of happened a little bit like it did fictitiously in semi-pro, right? With Will Ferrell. I mean, didn't the meeting that took place in that and the teams that got invited, the teams that were left out, didn't it kind of go a little bit that way? Right?
Exactly. It went exactly that way.
Okay.
Because the NBA didn't think that the ABA had a team called the Utah Stars, and those teams, they didn't. The NBA just didn't think that basketball was marketable in Utah.
Because Utah ended up getting the Jazz name from New Orleans, who are the New Orleans Jazz. So yes.
Right. So, but that's such a big day in sports history. At least I think so. But what I really wanted to kind of talk about was Willie Mays, and I did get in my life. I've been fortunate. I got a chance to see Willie Mays play at the old Crosley Field, and I got a chance to see Hank Aaron hit a couple home runs at Riverfront Stadium. But Willie Mays was back in the day. I know. This is so far out of fashion now because of technology and everything. Did you used to collect baseball cards? Did you ever have baseball cards?
I did. Yeah, I still have some laying around too.
I wish I would have kept mine, but the Willie Mays card would have been outstanding. But another player that played minor league or professional baseball from Indianapolis back in the 20s and 30s was the notorious John Dillinger. John Dillinger, the gangster. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, his nephew was here in our building yesterday. True story.
Oh, he was. His nephew can.
He was on with Hammer and Nigel. Yeah, I met him in the hallway. Because Hammer and Nigel, people think, well, you guys compete with one another. We like one another a great deal. We will occasionally, more than occasionally, before our shows kind of do a ceremonial throwback of a beverage, if you know what I mean. And they were getting ready to have, I think it's the nephew of John Dillinger, what he said. He was related to John Dillinger for sure.
Yeah, Dillinger played for the Mooresville Mentions and the Martinsville Athletics. And there's a baseball card floating around of John Dillinger with the Martinsville Athletics. But as the story goes, a lot of times they didn't finish the games that he played in because he stole all the bases.
Hey, Billy, in closing here, how much you think my George Foster is worth that I cut off the bottom of a ding-dong box back in 1978?
Oh.
What if I had what about my Craig Swan that I cut off the back of a ho-ho box? Remember when your baseball cards, you could cut them off the bottom of Hostess treats boxes, and they had them on ding-dongs, cupcakes, ho-hos. You remember those?
I remember that. And I remember those, and I also remember when you bought a pack of baseball cards, it always had a piece of gum in it.
Yeah, the checklist.
It was the worst gum in the world.
Worst gum ever, and you'd always get a checklist. The worthless checklist. What the hell do I need that for?
I don't know. I don't know, but we'll work it all out this Friday at the Back Nine, my brother.
You got it. Great to see you. I can't wait to see you on Friday, Billy. Thank you very much. Back Nine with Deep Eddy Vodka. That is on Friday. That is a party deck tour stop. Brent Halverson, the ladies from Channel 13, and a lot more for you. Coming up on Friday. By the way, too, as Excise has mentioned to me, complimentary samples flowing on Friday at Back Nine. So I can't wait to see you there. JMV, did you know that once upon a time, Kiana Tom appeared in a month edition of Playboy? My response would listen, you were talking to the foremost authority on nudity. So if nudity happened, I know about it. I appreciate you reminding me or trying to remind me. If nudity took place, I know what happened. I am the authority on nudity. Like Bob Costas, for example, thinks he's the authority on. I'm like the Bob Costas on baseball of nudity. I know it. I know it happened. Thank you. Pascal Siakam is going to get those 4 years. His max extension is for 4 years. Everybody seems to be really happy about it, as am I. But the next steps are going to be, does this team need to look outside the organization to get better, or can they maintain, if not grow, and get better with those within their personnel and organization right now? All right, 239-1070. We'll close that out with you coming up inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live and 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
A quick question for dads. Is your child's school providing them with the skills they'll need to succeed?
Geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Did you hear that? Watch this. Let me do that again. Didn't do it that time. That is having a chord in a chordless world right there, brothers and sisters. I saw this, and this is for you music aficionados, especially if you're in the ballpark of Generation X like me. I don't know if this has officially been announced, but I thought I saw it come across my desktop yesterday from our good friends at Live Nation and, of course, over at the Mural National Center. That's the Jesus and Mary chain and Head On right there. But one of my favorite bands from the 80s, Psychedelic Furs, that's Richard Butler and Psychedelic Furs, and the Jesus and Mary chain, I believe, are coming to Indy and the Mural on a tour. And then I want to say that I saw Squeeze and the Beat also coming to the Mural. We saw Squeeze, that was Chris Hagen and Bob Kravitz, who I think was passed out or asleep half the time during it, at Brown County Music Center. We saw Squeeze and Psychedelic Furs last September. But Squeeze and the Beat, Hagen and I saw the Beat, that's the English Beat, in general public with Adam Ant back in the wintertime, and that's the show where evidently the English Beat folks, the Beat people, got mad at somebody taking pictures in the front row and didn't play their most noted song of the catalog, Save It for Later. That was a little bit weird. But I think it was Dave Wakening, the lead singer there, that got mad. But great, just a great show. Squeeze, let me tell you this. Squeeze is just nonstop awesome, sounds just the same classic. So a couple of future shows for you right there, especially if you are a member of Generation X and you dig that type of stuff. That will be incredibly fun. Hey, JMV, I completely agree regarding Pascal Siakam and what they have right now. I said, I am more than willing to see and watch the guys the Pacers have now grow into what many people believe to their need to be going out and getting at this point in time. And that's, again, I mentioned Mikal Bridges. I know it wears everybody out. But that was the Bleacher Report deal that, not rumored, but just, here it is one more time. Bleacher Report had this trade idea. Jarus Walker, Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, the number 36 pick, a 2028 first-round pick, and a 2030 first-round pick to the Nets for Mikal Bridges. That is beyond stupid and ridiculous and deep. And I love Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges on this team would be dynamic. But there's no way, and again, this is Bleacher Report, so don't get worried that that would happen. I just don't think there's any way, anyhow, they're going to part with either Benedict Mathurin or Andrew Nembhard. They may have a different idea regarding the future of Jarus Walker. Maybe they do about the future of Isaiah Jackson. But there is no way, shape, or form I can see them trading or parting with Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Mathurin right now. I think that this team can grow by mostly staying the same. Other people disagree. Kevin Bowen was on earlier, and Kev was talking about how you have to listen to everything. Hey, I understand. Yeah, listen to everything. That's your job, to listen to everything. But your job is also not to jack around and screw stuff up. So to me, that's how I would handle that. Especially if the price tags for all this are going to be so steep. Just pat yourself on the back and know. Think about the postseason had Mathurin been involved. There was no doubt he was necessary. And then the growth of Nembhard, what you believe him to be. I don't care if he's a better point guard. I don't care if he's a better point guard than a two guard, and you have Nembhard. This is an era of positionless basketball. Have your coaches, have the staff figure it out. Don't trade good players. It's that simple. I thank our guest today, Kevin Bowen. Well, I'm sure they're going to love that tomorrow morning on the morning wake-up call regarding the nerd comments from earlier. That's going to go over well. Kevin Bowen, podcast, 1075thefan.com. But you did, James, say you were a nerd, and then Kevin Bowen didn't know who Sir Mix-a-Lot and Babies Got Back was either, so we made a significant, I don't know if it's a stretch, I thought it was a significant comparison between you two. So James, the nerd over there. Kevin Bowen, podcast 1075thefan.com. Kevin Lee was with us as well from NBC. Pat Boyland's got the Fever and the Mystics tonight. Sure as hell hope I can watch it. Guess I'll find out when I get home. Bally Sports, Indiana. Pat Boyland, 1075thefan.com. Get your The Fan on the Back 9 golf tournament presented by Franciscan Health tickets now. July the 18th, Back 9, 1075thefan.com. Enjoy your night.
Doc, I don't know what's wrong with me. All I think about